What are war tribes?
Yes.
I'm sure you guys are wondering. Well, I mean, if you've read the write-up, as you know, they are a roaming band of invaders, essentially from other worlds, who have come into the game, and they're trying to conquer. I mean, just as well as the different factions are. And so we have the Iroquois and we have the Urgu, along with a couple other war tribes that we will talk about a little bit shortly.
So there's actually a picture of the Iroquois right there.
The Iroquois are birdmen, obviously, and they are a little bit hawkish in nature, so they're a little bit of mystery compared to the other war tribes. The Iroquois, we don't really know much about them compared to, like, the Urgu, for example. The Urgu are going to be more of our pigmen, who are kind of like the Dothraki of Crowfall. I mean, they're just a roaming band of baddies, essentially, who just consume anything they run across and just, like, basically devastate the land wherever they go. And so I'm personally looking forward to destroying them when I get engaged.
They've actually got the most detailed backstory that I actually think is kind of cool. Talking about them, their whole point was they are descendants of men who were combined with pigs out of a rage from Yaga. And it was actually pretty crazy how that all came about. Yeah,
and so so now that we have the Iroquois and Urgu vying for territory within Crowfall, we're going to need the players to go in and start pushing them back and clearing them out. And we also will offer rewards for doing so. So
Can I pop in and just say very quickly, because we had a conversation with Todd earlier this week where he was talking to us. You know, he's actually out of the office right now, so he couldn't join us for the stream. So we were kind of getting a brain dump from him. The interesting thing to me is that these weren't tribes that were already in the Dying Worlds. Like the Crows, they've come there through rune gates and various means, and some of them we don't know how they got there. So that's a big part of it, is that they've shown up in the Dying Worlds just like the Crows have, and everybody's fighting for territory. They weren't always there, and that's why they have unique items on them, because those are things that represent their history and the places that they came from.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Yeah.
It's just they're not actually native to the Dying Worlds. They're actually kind of parasitic in a way. They're, you know...
Just like the Crows.
Yeah, just like the Crows.
Just like us.
And as you encounter them and as you fight them and receive loot from them, you will begin to learn a little bit more about who they are, what their culture is, what their purpose is, and why they function the way they do within Crowfall. And so some of the things that we will drop off these guys include... Should we talk about that now? Are they ready for that? Are they ready for that? Ready for that?
They need Todd approval, but eventually they'll actually be able to tell a story with the drops that they have.
So we have this new, well, it's relatively new. We're calling it collectible sacrifice items. So as you guys know, sacrifice items are items that you collect. You can sacrifice them in the brazier to gain XP. And then we've also introduced earlier in the game sacrifice items that you can combine with crafting recipes to create an even larger crafting or sacrifice item,
value.
excuse me. And so we're taking that a little step further. And so within these war tribe areas, you'll be able to collect these sacrifice items, a larger number, but they will offer a wider range of XP value. And then to combine them, you will have to actually go to a very specific crafting table. Well, it may not be a table necessarily in the future, but for now, it's a good way to message it.
Can we actually talk about that really quick? Because I think that's one of the coolest anecdotes about our game.
Yeah.
So Brandon actually had this problem trying to figure out how are we going to make these sacrifice items unique to the tribes. So we were just sitting there brainstorming, and all of a sudden, Blair chimes in and overhears us. He's like, well, why don't you guys just use a crafting station that is specific to this? So then after that, yeah, it was a mind-blowing explain. It was amazing. It all just snowballed from there. So then we went to Rudy, who's the environmental artist who's been building out these encampments. And at that point, he's like, well, yeah, I can throw something together real quick for you. I just need to get approval from Melissa. As soon as we go and talk to Melissa, she's like, yes, I'm on the same page. Let's do this. So that's how this this is one of my favorite anecdotes just because it shows how snowballing effects happen, and it's a waterfall effect, and ideas just get tossed around. Within like an hour we had a design for this.
Yeah, and it's very collaborative, very iterative process, and that's how we end up making cool stuff. And so the purpose of this is to encourage you, the player, to go to very specific areas after you locate them, of course. Because, again, I mean, all of these levels and these zones are randomly generated. So, Urgu Camp in one cluster isn't going to be in the same place as it is in another cluster. And even two Urgu camps aren't going to be alike. I mean, some may have very particular bosses, while others may have other particular bosses. And so, every experience should feel a little bit different.
And another thing I wanted to point out, because I saw somebody asking about this in the chat, they asked if the tribes aren't killed, will they expand? And yes, they can, just like the hunger.
That's actually one of the things that we wanted to plan for. Just like the hunger, they're actually going to be more of like a contagion spreading out. They might actually even start taking over forts and keeps, so they might actually be causing in more dynamic gameplay.
Yeah, so for now, we're just doing an initial rollout. We're going to get these guys in. We want you guys to get in and test them out, see how they are. Definitely please provide us with feedback on their difficulty, the rewards, everything. We want to hear everything so then we can improve the experience for all of you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an iteration process, right? Yeah. Nothing is ever right out of the gate. And that's why I love a live product, is because with Crowfall, we've got such a unique and great community that they're so good at giving us feedback. I'm on the forums all the time and Twitter, just seeing what people think of our game. So it's just really cool.
And what's also cool is that after we begin this initial rollout of the War Tribes, we will then continue to look at them, and we'll see other places in the game to where we can expand their use. I mean, I don't want to say, can I speculate right now? Is it okay for me to speculate a little bit?
If you're wrong, you die.
I would say
no speculation. Okay, well, sorry guys.
I just want to point out that I said it was okay, and Debbie Sue was the one who said it. Okay.
Well, it's possible in the future that there may be opportunities for you to ally or recruit with these guys in some way. Very vague. Is that vague enough?
Yeah.
I think that's vague enough.
And I think that actually ties into the whole like forts and keeps aspect. Do you really want them to take over a fort? I mean, if you're Order and they're going for a balance fort, are you going to let them?
Yeah, I mean,
it's just more dynamic gameplay that we're hoping to encourage.
Yeah, at some point we'd like you to choose to clear them out or keep them. Anybody? Nobody? All right. So those are a couple of the races that we're going to introduce with War Tribes. There's a couple more. Can't talk about them yet, but we will keep you posted about that in the future. But let's talk about the areas that the War Tribes will appear in. So we've got two areas that we're rolling out right now. One is a military encampment. It's going to be a little more organized compared to other areas because, I mean, military and organization, logistics, that's really a core part of what makes them what they are. And the kind of enemies that will appear in these areas are the more civilized, refined races. And then the other area we'll be rolling out initially are more like the tribal village, the barbarian village. Here, this is a little more disorganized, a little more
nomadic.
A lot more nomadic for sure. And here is a particular area in which like the Urgu will appear. So when you see the huts, you see kind of like the spikes, you see the skulls. It gives you an idea of what to expect from that area.
Yeah, and that actually ties in a lot with the Urgu, because the Urgu are they're brutish. They don't really fashion things. They use found resources, much like in the concept art that we have there. You know, their weapons are made from bone. I mean, that's pretty gnarly.
I mean, would it make sense if that guy appeared in a military hut?
It totally would.
I mean, especially if they like took over the area, demolished it. So we've got a couple of the War Tribes. We've got some new areas that we're rolling out. We've got loot that we're rolling out. As I'm sure some of you have heard, minor disciplines will be dropped off of War Tribes in the future. So we're going to remove the crafting recipes. We're sorry, guys. We're going to move them into the War Tribes. And right now, for this initial rollout, all the minor disciplines are going to drop from all the bosses, but in the future we're going to refine that a little bit more so that specific minor disciplines drop from very specific bosses. So then when you see that boss out there, you'll kind of know what to expect from him. And in general, that's kind of the direction that we want to go with loot, is that we want loot to be somewhat more predictable. I mean, there's always some sort of probability that comes with loot, but ideally there's going to be some level of predictability with it. So if you see a boss, you see an elite, you know you're going to get at least a little something. And even with the minions and the lower level War Tribe NPCs, you will always get at least some gold. You'll always get at least a little something, so you're always making progress before someone inevitably comes by and takes it all from you.
So I guess a good question to touch on is, because we're actually releasing God's Reach today, where are War Tribes going to be in God's Reach?
Actually, War Tribes are going to be in God's Reach. Because God's Reach is very limited in the max rank, the War Tribes there will only be max rank 5, I believe, and the rewards that are attached to them will also kind of fit with those ranks. I mean, we can't have the same probability for rank 1 as a rank 10, because obviously people will just go and burn down those rank 1 guys. So we're going to try to balance out the drop rates and drop qualities depending on the ranks.
Do you
Yeah,
actually...
so hold on a second, because there's a question from Fruit. Well, not a question so much as a comment, where he's saying, minor disciplines do not look like they are dropping off of War Tribes right now, and you have removed them from crafting, no vendors. Can you speak to that? Like, the drop rates don't seem to be where they need to be, and
just say if you're not the right people to speak.
So, well, yeah, I can speak. So
people aren't finding the disciplines.
So,
So-
that actually kind of ties into the whole, like, we need to tweak values and such.
Yeah.
A lot of it is just finding the sweet spot.
Yeah, and this is our initial cut of it. So then we will most likely adjust the numbers in the future. But acquiring a minor discipline from a boss is not going to be easy. I'm sorry. So something we have to consider when itemizing the loot is we don't want to break crafting. We don't want to break the system for crafters to be able to produce products for the world and distribute them and actually make profit. So for example, a weapon for a player, it might take them approximately an hour to harvest and craft. I'm just going to throw numbers out there for example, right? So it might take like an hour to harvest and craft that weapon, right? Well then, out in the world, we don't want the other players to be able to just go and acquire a weapon in less time, because then what's the point of going to a crafter, right? So that's something we have to strongly consider when itemizing these things.
On top of adding them to vendors, you don't want to be able to add an item to a vendor that is also about equal to something that someone like a hardcore crafter can make. So we're trying to work on the economy loop, and this is our first step in actually assisting that with, you know, sorry we had to pull out the minor disciplines. And I know that's a little painful, but hopefully once we get the tweaks and the values done, you know, it's all iteration process, and we'll get there. We just, you know, please be patient with us.
And minor disciplines are far more valuable than just a standalone weapon or piece of armor, so it's going to take a little bit to get it. It's going to take some work, and if you collaborate with others, team up, ally, it will make everything a lot easier and a lot faster. So
that might
I
actually
recommend that.
That might actually be a good segue to talk about like some of the other things that you could find on these, like the runic weapon components.
Oh,
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit more about that?
So that's another thing that will drop off of War Tribes are recipes. Well, they're temporary recipes.
Yeah, they're limited use recipes. They're kind of a throwback to if you played Swig. Yeah, they were called schematics, and they were drops. You know, this is a Thomas Blair thing, and you know, I think you guys need to light up on Blair a little bit. He has good ideas, and this is one of them that I really like.
Yeah, only we can be hard on Blair.
Yeah,
Everybody
I know.
can't be
It's
hard
like
on
it's like
Blair.
family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so well, these War Tribes, they'll drop gold, they'll drop minor disciplines, they'll drop runic weapon recipes, collectible sacrifice items. As some of you have seen, they'll also drop resources as well. So when you're out there chopping down bad guys, you'll also gain some some wood, some ore, some stone for your time. And as we continue to create and come up with other cool new things, we'll find opportunities to drop them off of the existing war tribes and future war tribes that we release as well.
Like, it would be kind of, like, now that I'm just snowballing here, it'd be kind of cool if you were able to do a death blow on those guys and then collect their skulls and then use them as crafting additives.
Oh yeah, like death blow them and then we pop a skull duber out and
Yeah.
just boop.
Bloop. You know, just this is how we've been working lately, honestly. Brandon has been getting debriefed on loot tables and his mind is gone.
Oh yeah, Blair has been trying to pass on all his knowledge to me on his
It's
methodology,
a
his
lot.
philosophy, and it is a lot.
It is a lot.
It feels like a college course.
So I guess one thing we can touch upon, so we've already talked about the Iroquois, the Urgu. Coming soon are the Imbari, which are the centaurs, but they're kind of more Celtic style.
Yeah, so if you understand that the centaurs are kind of like a very Romanesque legion, right? Their world was destroyed, so a lot of them traveled to these worlds, and they continued their conquering ways because that's part of their culture. The Imbari are kind of like an offshoot, right? It's like if the Roman Empire fell, and then you have like the people that have broken off, and then they've continued to live outside of all the perks and civility of the empire, and they're still doing their thing. So they're a little less Dothraki than, say, the Urgu, but they still like to.
A little less
They still like to
Dothraki.
conquer.
This is honestly how we talk too. I don't know how many times we've referenced like things like Game of Thrones, other video games. I don't know of any other job where you could just sit there and just theory craft and talk about other things. So this is one of the coolest aspects of our job, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess one thing that we could probably throw out is, let's see. So do we have any other things that we need to talk about before
Actually,
we...
one more thing
Yeah.
I will touch upon is with the war tribes. So they're going to be one way they're going to be really different from monsters. Monsters are almost like, and when I say monsters, I mean like Hellcats, your Aurochs, your bears, things like that. These guys are more like harvesting nodes that can kill you. But the war tribes are going to be more challenging. Their AI is going to be a little more complex, especially as we improve our tech in that regard. And they are going to have a little bit, even the barbarian types, they're going to be a little bit more organized. They're going to have grades, essentially. So we got like our minions, then above our minions we have our elites, then above them we have our solo bosses, which right now, calling them captains. Then above them we have our group bosses, which calling chiefs, or chiefs? Chieftains? Oh, chieftains, I like that.
Chieftains.
And then the level above that, which we're calling raid bosses, are going to be our named bosses, essentially. And these are going to be the guys that you rarely see out in the world and will offer essentially guaranteed loot. Like, you know, they're going to drop minor disciplines 100% of the time. The named boss is going to drop runic weapon recipes 100% of the time. I mean, when you pop these guys, it should be like a piñata on your birthday.
Piñata.
Quite literally. So look forward to all those guys, because we're trying to make some cool stuff for you.
Yeah, I mean, this is my favorite part of actually developing, is now that we've got the framework of things, we're just spewing out content. That's my jam.
Yeah, time to go.
Mandalore specifically asked, with the addition of all the new loot that we're doing, are we going to be adjusting anything for the inventory or adding a new bag system? Not currently, but there is a plan for it. I believe it isn't the next cycle, but the cycle after that, we're actually going to expand our bag system entirely. So that's coming. We know it's a pain. We have internal discussions about our loot system and our inventory and all that, and we understand. We know. Just please bear with us, because, you know, like I said, it's all an iteration process. We're still learning.
Yeah, I mean, we play and we have the same problem.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I want to keep
absolutely.
everything. I'm a mushroom collector. I know they're worthless, but for me, it's like hunting Easter eggs. I see the little sparkles.
Yeah.
I can't stop myself.
Yeah,
So
I
have
can't either. I have to interact.
Yes, I have 1,000 mushrooms. Okay, so Parfax has a question. The raid boss will drop loot that anyone can loot. Do you know what the looting rules are going to be for those bosses?
Right now, the looting rules are the same as always. Will we refine the way looting works? We are going to continue to look at that.
Yeah,
But-
that's one of those things that we are aware that
But-
it's kind of painful.
But look. So, to take down these guys, you're going to need a group of people. You're going to need a couple groups of people. Might need 3 groups of people. I don't know. You tell me. But I highly recommend you work with people that you know and trust to some extent so that you guys can work and coordinate and distribute the loot properly. And again, we're still through testing phases, so we're constantly like iterating and tuning on this as we go. But for now, please be kind to each other.
And I can't do that. I'm not a good sharer.
I know, and that I'm not either, honestly.
What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine.
What's mine is mine.
Can't help it.
So it seems like guilds and more organized parties are going to have a slightly easier time with this off the bat until we continue making changes. But for the pickup groups, please be kind to each other. Please be kind to each other.
Just to iterate too, like it's a system we know that could use some love. It's in the works, hopefully.
Take it out on the other faction. Take their stuff. Wait for them to kill the boss. Take their stuff. There's other things.
I mean, that
you
does encourage another different gameplay.
Yeah, thanks. That's not going to make my job harder. Okay, one last question, and then we got to go. We're running out of time here. Will war tribes evolve with the seasons? That was from Unnamed 44.
Ooh, that's a good question, and I don't think we have a solidified answer for that.
Immediately, in this initial rollout, they aren't affected by seasons. I mean, other than the usual everything ranks up with seasons, I mean, they're affected in that way. But there are no specific special effects associated with any of the war tribes based on seasons. But that's an excellent idea, and it's something we have considered as well, but nothing concrete yet.
Okay. All right, well, we have to go. I mean, we have some more great questions in here. Maybe I can...
Another one.
Huh?
Do one more.
Okay, one more.
One more question.
And we'll be on the forums too, always answering. That's what we do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is we'll be on the insiders forums, we'll be on the regular forums, and all the other methods.
Okay, so Basket Case says, can we please institute proximity looting? Looting mobs on top of mobs is horrible.
It is. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's actually something we've been discussing with a programmer internally about how we can better fix that. We don't have an ETA on when that fix will happen, but it is in the works.
And it's also not our call personally, but you know, it's a production process that we're going through. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things we're working on simultaneously, and it's all about priorities. So
we're just trying to find that cadence of not only release cycles, not only trying to communicate to the players, but also internally as well. So
internally develop new stuff for these releases, but then also develop new stuff for like the far future. Yeah. So we're working for y'all.